started making names right away. And I loved it. I was robbing drug dealers, and taking their gold right off their neck. And the shit we did, who's going to call the police on you? A drug dealer?
I can identify with anything that was normal, to be honest with you. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
99% of the time, you're going to disagree.
Just like the Donnie Brasco situation with Lefty.
Yeah, because the reason why, they figure it this way. You brought this guy around, he ratted on everybody, now he ratted on you. You might turn around and join him and rat on us, so we get rid of you. There's no connection between there and there, and they get rid of you.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. Can you guys hear me good? Hope everyone's having a great day. Hope everyone had a good Easter Sunday. I'm doing good. Richard, what's up, man? How are you? So, my browser's acting up. So what I'm going to do, what's up, Stevie Bullets? How are you? What I'm going to do is play some of my past videos, and we're just going to play a whole bunch, and I'm going to explain what the different YouTube channels that I've dropped are, and you'd probably be surprised to know that I run a couple different ones, and one of them is Mobcast. I've had it for, I don't even know, probably a year or something like that. And I'm streaming on that right now. Shout out to everybody who's watching from Mobcast. I also have the Trump Crime Family. Shout out to everyone who subscribed through the Trump Crime Family. And I also have Chatting with Staxx. Shout out to all my Chatting with Staxx people who've been with me since day one. So we're going to get into one of the good interviews that I enjoyed doing, and I got a lot more to come. I think there's around 1,300 interviews on Chatting with Staxx, and I'm just getting started. So if you guys like this type of content, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Now, let's get into the first episode, and I'll be back after this episode, and I'll play another one after that, and we'll just keep it going for a little while. But I appreciate all of you, Richard, Stevie Bullets, everyone, man. Shout out to you. Let's get into this. This is Jay Dobbins, the undercover, who went undercover in the, Arizona Hells Angels. So here's his interview. Let's get into it. Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Jay Dobbins. What's up, Jay?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, Staxx.
Yeah, no problem, man. This is a pretty big anticipated interview. A lot of my fans wanted to see this, and you have a lot of fans out there, even though sometimes people, are rubbed the wrong way, you can say.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, your audience is not going to be fans of me.
Some of them will be.
You know what? Maybe. But you know what? If all I do is do interviews and appear in programs where everybody loves me and everybody praises me and everybody has something nice to say about me, how easy is that? You know, I think there's more of a challenge to appear in places where people are going to criticize you and have complaints with you and try to address those and give honest answers to those people. But everybody's entitled to their opinion. I don't expect everybody to like me. You know what? My wife doesn't like me every day. My kids don't like me every day. There's days when I don't like myself. So why would I expect everybody on the outside to love me?
Hey, I don't get love a lot either, man. Sometimes, hate comes all over the place. But you got to just keep pushing forward. So I want to know, how did you get involved to even be involved with with law enforcement? I know you had a career with football. How did it transfer into law enforcement?
Yeah, I was a pretty good college football player. I had dreams of playing professionally. I never had a plan B. I only had a plan A, which was to play professional football. And I wasn't good enough. Like, I don't make excuses. There's a lot of people who, athletes, who don't achieve whatever that high level goal is for themselves. And they have excuses to offer for it. Oh, I hurt my knee, I hurt my back, the coach didn't like me, all those things. Man, I don't have any excuses. I did the very best I could. I put myself in position to be who I wanted to be. And in the end, man, I just wasn't good enough, man. I can live with that because I know that I did my best to try to get there.
Yeah. So how did law enforcement even come on your radar? Like, how was that? How did it intersect with your life?
Well, it's kind of a hokey story. Talking about getting beat up. When you publish this, all the trolls on the comment side will, they'll attack this as well. So I get that, but it's the truth, right? This is the true answer. Like a lot of young people, I had a dream, and my dream was to play football, and then that dream fell apart. And well, not even young people, just all of us at any age. I was sitting there looking at myself like, now what, man? I didn't have a plan B. So this was mid-80s, and the television show Miami Vice was super popular, right? I never had some Copland goal to live in that world, but Sonny Crockett, dude, like driving around in that Lamborghini or Ferrari or whatever it was.
Yeah.
In
White
South Beach,
suit.
tricked out. He had like his pistols, like under his coat with the Hugo Boss, and going to meet drug dealers, and there's tons of cocaine he's negotiating for, and he's like sipping mojitos, and there's stripper models hanging on him, right? I was like, I wonder if that's real, man, because that looks pretty dang sexy to me, right? And so, as hokey as that is, that's where it started.
So did you reach out to them, or was there an ad? Like, how did you apply?
Right? I started applying. I started applying to agencies, and I wanted to work for ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which is a small agency with a pretty small jurisdiction, but they are the best federal law enforcement agency for undercover work. They really, especially at that point in time, now mid-80s, through my career, they really pushed the undercover operations. They understood the value of undercover operations, and that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I'd be any good at it, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to try it and see. I didn't know if I'd be good, but I've never been afraid to fail. I've been afraid not to try. But I've never been afraid to fail. So I was like, let's try, man.
So you weren't ever involved in any crime or anything before this point?
You know what, dude? I was pretty squeaky clean. I was probably too square for the job, too straight for the job. So in order to gain the expertise and be comfortable, like in that street environment, like I had to learn that. Like I can't say that I grew up like in a rough neighborhood or had a rough childhood, or any of those things that would have laid the groundwork for me. Like I had to go out and study the people that were the targets of investigations in that community, and like let them train me, learn from them how to walk, how to talk, how to look, how to dress, how to drive, what to say, what not to say, all those different levels of respect that take place on the street. all the street protocols, all that gangland language and body language and all those things, like that didn't just come natural to me. Now I had to go like learn that to survive.
Yeah, some people use their background like they grew up in a rough childhood, and they just use the background of the people they grew up around, and they apply that. Right?
They had a head. Those people have a head start on me. Like I grew up like, to be honest with you, like there was a white picket fence childhood for me. My folks stayed together. We never had a lot, but I always had a bike to ride. I had good parents. I wasn't in trouble any more than like just like normal kid trouble, right? Nothing over the top. So if the people that, and I've worked with people like that who grew up in like really rough, early youthful part of their life, they had a head start on me, man, because they understood the world. They understood the street. I had to learn it.
So how are you learning these things? Are you watching different movies and shows? Are you learning from people like around you?
Yeah, you know what, I think Hollywood, the entertainment industry, I referenced Miami Vice and how that kind of caught my eye. But
Yeah.
to be honest with you, the entertainment industry, it's counterfeit in how it portrays the world of law enforcement, how it portrays undercover work. It glamorizes it. It makes it sexy, which is what caught my eye with Sonny Crockett in Miami Vice. The
Yeah.
reality of it is that when you decide to do that profession, you know, for a living, it's a nasty, dirty, bloody, vomit-covered world. Man, there's nothing sexy about it. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's nasty.
So when you're learning different things, what's your first case that they put you on?
Well, so I got hired on a Monday. I got sworn in on a Monday. On a Thursday, 4 days later, I got taken hostage and shot. I had a bullet. I got shot in the back, point blank. The bullet went in my back, in between my spine and my shoulder blade. It went through my lung and narrowly missed my heart. It exited my chest. It was a through and through. So 4 days on the job, right? I hadn't been trained. I hadn't done anything. 4 days, and I was bleeding to death, like in the garbage and dog shit of this trailer park, with blood coming out of my chest, like you're holding your thumb over the end of a garden hose.
Who shot you?
A guy we were trying to arrest. Like I didn't know what I was doing, obviously, right? The suspect runs from us. I chase him down, and like I wasn't fast enough to play professional football. I was too slow, but I was fast as fuck as a cop, right? In cop land, I was fast. In football, in professional football land, I wasn't fast enough. In cop land, man, I could fly by that standard, right? So I chase this kid. He hides. Make a long story short, he was fast and he popped up behind me and took me hostage.
Wow.
And that's like that. There's no one to blame for that. That's my fault, dude. That's a guy out there trying to get in the middle of the action who doesn't know what he's doing.
Like you shouldn't have been running after him like that, right?
Well, I should have at least been trained to like how to do like the techniques and tactics of that, which I didn't know. I was just like throwing it out there, man. I was just like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to run and chase and get in fights, and I wanted to do all that stuff that was part of it, right? And then like now 4 days later, I'm in the middle of it, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm not prepared for this, man. I'm not trained for this.
Are you thinking you're gonna die when you get shot?
Dude, it was bad for a bit, man. Like I got pretty chewed up in that, you know. So, but like it was a good, man. Like with every bad thing that happens to any of us, if you look hard enough, you can find the good in it, right? So that shooting and all the bad things that happened real time, a lot of good came from that. And so it's just a matter of trying to find the silver lining in the clouds sometimes.
How long was the recovery time from that shooting?
Well, when I got shot, I mean, first of all, I was young. I was like 25, 26 years old. I was in great shape. So those are two factors that, like, regardless of when you get hurt, you get sick. If you're young and if you're physically fit, you have a better chance.
Yeah.
So the recovery was like, man, I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks and then, you know, kind of chilling for a couple of weeks, but I came back from that pretty quick.
So then you come back, right? And what case do they put you on? Are you eager to get back into the business? Do you have anxiety from the shooting? Like, what's going on through your head when you return?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I had my out, and so this is, you know, damn near close to 40 years ago. Now, the decisions I made then, I'm kind of looking at them now, like, so after I got shot, there was attorneys that were lining up saying, like, dude, how much money you want? You were not trained. You were put in a position where the agency has a huge liability. They want you in this story to go away. Like, you know what $1 million looks like?
What's up, everybody? This commercial break is brought to you by Piggy. Send me those donations. I need them donations or I'm shutting this stream down. I need my money. Give me my damn money. Back to the regularly scheduled program.
Man, like, I grew up in a blue collar family, man. My dad was a carpenter. My mom cleaned houses, man. We never had a whole lot, right? $1 million? I had no idea what $1 million looks like.
Yeah.
How about $5 million? They're saying, like, you tell me how much money you want, and I'll get the government to write the check. Just tell me how many zeros you want, because they put you in a bad spot, right? Like, I didn't take the job for money. I didn't take the job like, no cop signs up for the job thinking that he's going to get rich or tries to get rich. They do it for other reasons, right? All I wanted was a chance to come back and see if I could do it better, do it right.
So you didn't sign the paper and get the money?
Well, at 25, money was very unimportant. Now, 40 years later, I'm like, man, I could have done a lot of things, man, if I would have taken that money and done something else, right? And probably lived a more peaceful life.
Probably.
But you know what? I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to try to make a difference. I knew that when I came on the job, I really didn't know how the job worked, but I knew that I wanted to be a guy who would stand in between predators in the community and the good and innocent people out there who just wanted to live a safe, peaceful life. Like, those people, that element of society, like, needs people to protect them and to defend them. And I wanted to be that guy.
Yeah. So when you return back to work, are they putting you right back in the mix? Are they like, all right, we got this case we're going to try to put you on? How do you get pushed towards the Arizona chapter of the Hells Angels?
Well, so
or the solo, right? First, the Solo Angels.
So after the shooting, I get transferred to Chicago, and a year later, I'm in another shooting, like in a running gun battle with gangbangers in Joliet, Illinois. I got shot again and got run over by a car after we did a machine gun exchange. We did a machine gun transaction, which went to shit, and I got it was in a shooting again, like a year later. right? So,
Oh,
but you know, when you're young and those things happen to you and you survive them and you come out the other side of it, you feel invincible. You know, I had a bullet go through my chest. I got run over by a fleeing vehicle during this shootout. I felt like I was invincible.
yeah, you're like,
I
nothing
was
could
like, man,
touch
nothing
me.
can get me, man.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna get me. But so like jumping forward into the Hells Angels investigation, that was 15 years after I came on the job. That was 15 years after those shootings, right? So in that time, I had developed, you know, some skills and some trade craft that gave me a chance, right? I've been buying guns on the street, everything from Saturday Night Special, like rusted shut revolvers, to shoulder launched rockets, right? I've been buying narcotics, everything from dime bags to cartel level built. I bought pipe bombs from homemade PVC glued together pipe bombs to servo activated remote control C4 IEDs. I've been involved in like home invasion infiltrations. I played a hitman in murder for hire schemes. So over the course of those 15 years, when the opportunity came to take a shot at this biker investigation, I wasn't that kid that got hired and got shot his first week on the job. Like I had learned the trade craft and the expertise that gave me a chance to survive in that environment.
Yeah, so you got this kind of see what the underworld is all about, and you can apply some of the things you learned throughout them years
Well,
to
you know
your
what, man, I
investigation.
loved it every day of it. The good days, the bad days, the days when I succeeded, the days when I failed, the days when I got things right, the days when I got things wrong and made mistakes. Every single day, I loved my life. I loved when my alarm clock went off in the morning and I put my feet on the ground and I was having my cup of coffee and my bowl of Cheerios. I was excited to go to work every day.
Yeah. And that was around this time when this investigation was starting.
You know, every day, even the bad days, man, even the days when I failed, I was like, man, you can do better, Jay. Like, try again tomorrow. I mean, that's just the beauty of life, man. We make mistakes. We screw things up. But what we're trying to do, any of us, what we're trying to do is not keep making the same mistake over and over and over again. Try to learn from when we did it wrong.
But did you ever feel like, up to this point, did you ever feel like the organization that you're working for is not fully on your side? Are you having any feelings about them at all?
No, at that point in time, like I had no inkling of that. Like I felt love and support and all those things that you want to feel when you're out, like taking risks, putting your life on the line, putting your personal life on hold, asking your family to and stand down on the things that they want from you in order to do the things that you think are important in life. Like I felt like I had everybody's support. I did have everybody's support. At that point in time, man, I had all the support I needed. I had all the training I needed, all the love I needed. My partners and my peers were amazing. There was no red flags at all.
Were you riding motorcycles at this point?
I could ride. I could ride. I could not ride the way the guys that I was working on could ride. Like, I mean, those dudes grew up. Some of those dudes were riding motorcycles like damn near like after they learned how to walk. And so some of the way they rode was a bit overwhelming at first because these dudes are riding, 18 inches apart, back wheel to front wheel, 80, 90 miles an hour. side by side, splitting traffic, splitting lanes. And then, and then you got dudes that are like riding wheelies and doing burnouts and all. Like, I couldn't do any of that stuff. I couldn't trick ride by any means.
Was there, I hate to jump forward, but was there any crashes when you were doing your investigation? Was there anyone?
I had a couple minor ones. I had a couple minor, like nothing that was very traumatic. I had a few minor diggers, where I took a header and had to shake my head and say like, man, that was stupid, right?
Looking around to see if anyone was looking. Like,
now I saw some. There were some the accidents that took place around me. I saw a dude like get T-boned in an intersection and have his leg cut off, like real time, like not like his leg was damaged. His leg was separated from his body. Like a pedestrian came up holding the dude, like the lower part of this dude's shin and his foot.
Wow.
So I, obviously never experienced anything that traumatic, but I saw it. Anybody that's seen a bad motorcycle accident will make you never want to get on a motorcycle again. I'll tell you that.
So I think right around this time that you were doing this investigation, I'm not quite sure, but I'm from Connecticut. There's Hell's Angels that live around this area, and a Hell's Angels got killed off his bike. His name was Bear. He got shot. He was from Bridgeport. He got shot on the highway. A van slid the door open and they shot him right off his bike, and he got murdered. And I remember when that happened. Do you remember around that time?
Well, you know what, that gangland life and that those types of events, and like when you're living in that world, that's not fantasy. That's not Hollywood, right? That's not a television show. That's real life. Those kind of things happen, and there's gang wars out there, and in biker land, the Hell's Angels are the king of the mountain. They are like they're the biker gang that everybody knows, everybody recognizes, everybody aspires to be. They have this massive history, and following and cult following, and that so they like that reputation creates enemies. It creates jealousy. It creates rivalries and adversaries. And man, so if you're living in that life, like you've got a target on your back.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's no secret to the people that live in that world. You want to put that patch on your back, you're also putting a target on your back.
Yeah.
So all the people that don't like the set you're with.
Yeah.
And to law enforcement.
Yeah, law enforcement and your enemies, both. You're running from both. Not running from them, but you're putting a target for both of them, right?
Well, there's I found humor in it. I don't know if anybody else thinks it's funny. I was in a situation where there was some traditional organized crime, mafia, La Cosa Nostra guys present with some Hells Angels. And the mob guy said, you know what the difference is between you and us? And like I'm waiting for the answer too. And the mob guy says, we don't wear fucking suits that say the mob on the back. We don't fucking advertise who we are.
Yeah, it's true.
So you know what? Like you want to be like with the Hells Angels or with any outlaw motorcycle gang, you put that cut on, and you're putting your flash on it and your street name or your moniker or your title, your position, all those things, your rockers that say where you're from. Man, you're telling everybody, this is who I am. This is who I'm with.
So this is a major question, right? Because there's a lot of people out there who ride motorcycles who are not not aware of the motorcycle organized crime aspect. So just because they're in a motorcycle club, even the Hells Angels, have you come across people who are not involved with criminal activity?
Absolutely. And I've never publicly or privately tried to claim that let me back up a little bit. My point of reference is the Hells Angels, right? So there's all these other motorcycle clubs and gangs out there, right? So, but I've never said at any point that every Hells Angel is a murderer or a rapist or a drug dealer or a gun runner or an extortionist or an arsonist. I crossed paths with dudes who were members who weren't in criminal activity, like weren't actively involved in it, right?
Yeah.
People around them might have been, their organization might have been, but they individually were not out there like looking to either do things wrong or looking to like roll into some spot and start caving people's heads in. That's a myth. That's an urban legend that every guy that's wearing a patch is out there looking to do nasty work. That's not true.
Yeah, I want to make sure people out there know that they're all not criminals. So there's only I don't know the amount, but there's a small few, and there's some that are law-abiding citizens, and they don't go that route.
So Staxx, like, let's translate that same attitude into law enforcement, right? So, because I don't care if you're doctors or lawyers or if you're school teachers or used car salesmen or cops or bikers, you put a group of people together, nobody fits. It's not like everybody fits under the same umbrella. So people look at biker gangs and like every single cat that's wearing that vest is a murderer, right?
Yeah.
Or a drug dealer or whatever. Not true.
There's some way involved with something negative,
but the
right?
same thing goes like when the negative publicity comes around law enforcement. There's cops that are out there that do bad things. There's bad apples. There's cops that have been involved in criminal activity. That like not every cop like lives that lifestyle. Not every cop has that attitude. So it's universal. Like what we do as society is we take the few extreme stories and then we try to paint everybody that's within that world with the same brush, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, just like me, I have a criminal past, right? I was in and out of prison a lot of times. I was addicted to drugs. That's not who I am anymore. You know what I mean? That's who I was.
I think that you're a shining example of that, and I know other people that are as well that I admire, like that were going down a bad path or that had put themselves in a bad position. Who we were is not necessarily who we are.
Yeah. So now you're 15 years into this career, and have you noticed any of the officers that you had contact with? Have you noticed any of them doing any illegal activity?
I cross paths with cops or corrupt cops. That I don't I try to answer my questions, tell the stories of my experience, like straight down the middle, right? So did I cross paths with corrupt cops? Yeah, I did. Did I cross paths with cops who were doing things they shouldn't have been doing, had attitudes they shouldn't have had? I did. And you know what? Some of them are locked up for like a long ass time too. And that's where they deserve to be.
Especially when they take an oath to do a certain job, and then they it's crazy.
Staxx, I'll tell you this has always been my attitude towards dirty cops or corrupt cops. And again, a very, very small percentage of that profession like falls into that category. But you know what? You want to be a gangster? You want to sell drugs? You want to do illegal things? Man, go do it. Go take your shot. Go try to make your fortune. But don't hide behind a badge to do it.
Yeah, and they use the power of the police force to do their bidding, basically. Some of them.
You know what? We can list those stories, man. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like from north, south, east, and west of stories of cops who use their badge and their position and their influence to conduct criminal activity. And that is shameful. And when they get caught and when they get prosecuted and convicted, just like anybody else, man, they got it coming, except it's worse. Like I said, man, you want to go be a gangster? Go be a gangster. Just don't hide behind your badge to do it.
So during your 15 years, right, have you ever come across a situation where you're like, man, you probably shouldn't be doing that?
Yeah, when I was in Chicago, I was running next to a guy who, at the time, real time, it wasn't necessarily making sense to me what he was doing. In hindsight, and after more information was revealed, this cat was running a full-on drug ring, right? And so some of the things he was doing at the time seemed appropriate, but they weren't. He was serving this criminal mission he was on. We were making arrests of drug dealers, right? So that's what we're supposed to do, right? On the surface, it appeared straight up. We were running warrants on dope houses, which on the surface is what we were supposed to be doing. Only after the fact did I find out the drug dealers we were arresting were competition to his organization. The search warrants we were running were competition to his organization. So he was using his influence, his knowledge, his power to gain insider information and to eliminate the competition. And that's that thing's breaking. He never see the light of day, and nor should he.
That's wild, man. That's wild that they would take that oath and go so far with their career just to throw it all away for something like that. But the power of the dollar is pretty strong, man.
Well, I think that greed is dangerous. Greed is dangerous. It's a dangerous element to allow to touch your life.
Definitely. We got a bad connection right now, man.
I can see and hear you fine.
Can you?
Yeah.
You're all blocky. It's like, I don't know. Maybe when I go back after I press the stop button, it'll all compress, maybe I don't know.
We can try to reset it. Like I'm hearing and seeing you real time with no glitches.
Oh, then that's good then. All right. So you get to Arizona, right? What's the first dealings with your investigation with the motorcycle club? Like, so you have to portray as a solo angel, right? From Tijuana or something like that?
Yeah, well, it was it's baby steps, man. For anybody who's not familiar with that world, it's not like you walk up to a Hell's Angels clubhouse and knock on the door and say, hey, man, you know what? I'm Jaybird, man. You have an application? I'd like to join. It doesn't work that way, right? It's a slow process. And so you have to, it's really no different than any other element of life, is that you have to build relationships. You have to build friendships, and it starts small. So it's like that relationship starts remote as an acquaintance, and then you build a friendship, and then in some cases you build trust. You're trying to trust, and then through, from the acquaintance to the friend to now a trusted friend, then you start building loyalty, and in some cases you even build love.
Yeah, because you're around these people, they become your friends, right? You're like with
You
them
know,
every day.
there's people I worked on that were targets of not just the Hells Angels investigation, other investigations I worked on that, like, I actually enjoyed their company. I enjoyed their presence. There were people who were like actually fun to be around, fun to hang out with. And so in an undercover role, when you're spending an extended amount of time with people, you're not just, every day is not in the middle of some criminal event. Like, you're hanging out with them. And you're
Did you
like,
feel bad
you eat
at
with
one
them.
point? At
Yeah,
any
I'm
point,
like, you eat with them. You hold their babies. I slept at their houses. They slept at my house. There was a time in the Hells Angels investigation, I was alone at my undercover house. It was Thanksgiving. The phone rings. It's like, hey, Jay Bird, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? I'm like, man, I'm just sitting here chilling out, man, with a TV dinner, man. And they're like, dude, you need to come over with me and hang out with my family and spend time with us. Right? When things like that happen, that's the human side. You never, in an undercover role, you can never get rid of the human factor. It's always there. So do you build affection for people? Do you build like a love for people? Like on a human element? Yeah, you do. And then ultimately, like, the information that you have gathered, the intelligence you have gathered, the facts, the evidence is put forward. And so your interactions with those people are going to lead potentially to their arrest, potentially to their trial, potentially to their conviction or incarceration. Man, I never felt good about that. I never.
What's good, everybody? Quick announcement. Make sure you guys hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Hit the like button. Piggy ain't going to be around for a while. So if you want to donate to the channel, you can hit the Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all that good stuff. The Cash App is Bill Staxx 2021. And I got the piggy tied up with an apple in his mouth. We're going to roast him up tonight. And let's get back to the show. Hope you guys enjoy this. I'll be back. Ha 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 ha.
Set out to say, man, I'm going to ruin this dude's life. I'm going to crash his world. That was never my objective. My job was to go out and gather information, gather facts, gather evidence, then take that information and deliver it out to case agents or prosecutors, ultimately to judges and juries. Like, I don't make the judgment on people. So there are people that were ultimately arrested or convicted behind the work I did that, like I don't feel good about that. I'm not happy about that. I had a job to do. I went and did it the best I could, but like, I don't get any satisfaction out of saying, hey man, I locked that dude up. Like, that was never my objective. My objective was to gather information and facts and evidence.
And you did that, right? I mean, but so with the investigation, was there any times during the investigation that you felt like in fear for your life? Like, damn, I'm caught. Like, they're going to catch me.
Well, when you spend time with dangerous people over an extended period of time, might not necessarily be book smart. You know, they might not be Rhodes Scholars, but they are PhDs on the street. They have PhDs in violence and intimidation, and so you're living a lie, and you're telling these people a lie about yourself. You're living this false persona, right? And so these cats are smart. The lie you told them 2 years ago, you better be ready to live up to that lie real time today, because they're not going to forget. So every time you tell a story, every time you tell something or reference something about yourself that's fictitious, it's going into their catalog, man. It's going into their hard drive, and they're going to access that at some point and challenge you on it. So,
Say, hey, remember that? Do you remember when you said that? Right?
well, you're always at risk of getting blown up. You're always at risk of trick bagging yourself if you're not good at what you do and not like on point every minute, every second of every day.
Did you ever get caught in a lie with them?
Yeah, I got, I had my cover challenge. I've been in situations where I've like had a gun held to my head and said like, man, dude, we ain't buying it. We ain't buying your bullshit anymore, man. You need to explain this. Well, you know what? You better be able to explain it. And I always felt like when there's a gun to my head and I'm being challenged, as long as I'm talking, as long as I'm communicating, I have a chance, right? Because when you're not talking, that means you've either been shot or you've been gagged.
So can you explain the situation where they took your partner that you were with, made him die, right? They put blood on a patch, a Mongol's patch or something, and some cow brain or something, and they took pictures and you took the cut back to him. Can you explain like what that investigation was like, that little part of the investigation?
Sure, it was at the very end of the infiltration. I was trying to like push myself over the top with these guys. And at the very start of my interaction with the Hells Angels, I asked the simple question, and it was asked to elicit conversation, to gather information, but it was also asked for my own guidance. I said, what am I supposed to do if I cross paths with a Mongol? I'm with you guys, I'm associated with you guys, I'm riding with you guys. I cross paths with the Mongol. What are your instructions to me as to how to handle that? There was no hesitation. The president of my charter, which was the Skull Valley Charter in Arizona, he said, it's your job to kill him. Okay, so I took that information and I put that in my back pocket for 2 years, right? Sitting on it, like knowing that was the attitude.
But you're the probate at this time, right?
Yeah.
So are you wearing a bottom rocker?
Yeah.
You're running around with a bottom rocker on. Wow, man.
So like at the end, trying to push this thing over the top, I created a fictitious story and went back to these same guys and said, hey, there's a Mongol in Mexico. I've got contacts down there. He's talking shit. He's talking about running tweak up, into Arizona, right into our backyard. There's nothing we can do about it. The Mongols kicked our ass in Laughlin. Like all those inflammatory statements that would piss them off, right?
Yeah.
I said, let me prove myself, man. I want to go down to Mexico and smoke this dude. There was no hesitation in that. They gave me the gun to do it. They gave me the instructions on how to do it. So we go, take a Mongol, dig a shallow grave out in the desert, assassinate the dude, cut his vest off, take it back to the Hells Angels, said, man, you know what? If you thought I was bullshitting, now you know I wasn't. Here's the pictures. So the Mongol's got his head blown apart, and there's blood in the dirt, and there's brains on the ground. Brought the bloody Mongol vest back to him. Delivered all this real-time, like hands-on, that they could touch and see and feel and smell evidence of this murder. What we didn't tell them, obviously, and the lie in it, was that it was all fabricated.
Yeah.
The guy that we killed was a member of our task force. We didn't really kill him. We used Hollywood techniques to dress him up and make him look like he was dead, make him look like he'd been headshot, and beaten and buried. And we did a good enough job of it to sell murderers that we had committed a murder.
Was that the only plan you guys had to infiltrate them, to get in, like a step in, or did you have any other plans besides that plan?
Well, for 2 years, that was a very extreme example, but for 2 years, I mean, I did that for 2 years in these guys' presence. I set up false, fictitious hoaxes, street theaters for them to witness for 2 years. So they saw me in gun deals, doing gun transactions. They saw me in drug deals. They saw me involved in beatings. They saw me involved in extortions and intimidations. What they didn't know is that they were all like orchestrated behind the scenes, where the people that I was working on in their presence were actually cops playing a role.
That's
Like
crazy.
I did debt collections. I brought Hell's Angels with me on debt collections, where I went and stuck up somebody for money. So in their eyes, real time, they just saw Jaybird confront a dude, take his money, take his car, talk shit to him, walk away. In their eyes, man, they were just part of a debt collection. What they
Yeah.
didn't know is that the victim of the debt collection was one of my partners.
So when you're doing gun buys and drug buys and things like that, do you ever feel that the facilitation of the organization that you worked for, that the facilitation of these drug deals or these gun deals were the reason why they were involved with criminal activity?
Well, I think I understand the question. Deception, law enforcement deception is sanctioned from the lowest levels of law up through the Supreme Court. Cops are allowed to participate in deception. Okay, so that's like a basis, right? So there's elements of a criminal investigation as an undercover agent that you have to be aware of, which come through experience. One is entrapment, right? That's the most common defense that any defendant attorney is gonna make against an undercover agent. You entrapped my client. You put my client in a situation, and you made it so enticing for him that no reasonable person would have said no, right? So anybody that was involved in one of these street theaters, we had to show there was predisposition for that person to be involved in that type of activity. We couldn't take
you could give them an
dude.
out, right? You give them an out too, or
Well,
no?
I can't confront some guy that has no criminal history, no predisposition, and say, hey man, let's go rob this drug house, and there's going to be $1 million worth of dope in there. Like, that person's not predisposed to do that. That would be like an extreme example of entrapment. But if that person is predisposed to do drug robberies and do home invasions, and then there's an opportunity presented to him, like, I didn't create this dude's life for him. He chose that before he met me.
Yeah.
There's another element, a legal element that you have to be aware of as an agent, is outrageous government conduct. Like, I could not be so extreme and so out of control and so wild in the way that I acted that I was worse than the person who was being investigated, if that makes sense.
I seen one where you were hitting the guy in a bar, right? And you said you were holding back on your punches.
Well, so if I'm in the middle of a bar fight and everybody around me is smashing on people, like I didn't create this. I didn't invent this. I'm in my role, right? I'm trying to stay believable. But like, when those situations happen, when someone was like getting rat packed, like, I had to stay in role, but at the same time, I can't stand by and watch some civilian have his brains bashed out and end up with, dead or with brain damage. So I would try to fight to the middle of the fight, get to the victim, headlock him, like throw some legitimate punches on him, it's not like I'm going to kill anybody punching him in the head, but
Kind of
in reality,
keep you in between you
yeah,
and
in
them.
reality, what I'm trying to do is keep this dude from taking a steel-toed boot in the forehead, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to knock his brains out of his ears.
So I'm sure you could have been a guardian angel for some people in those situations, you know?
You know what? There's a funny story. Like after the Hells Angels case ended and some publicity came out on it, I got contacted by like some random dude who like I didn't know who he was. And he's like, "You don't know me. There's no reason for you to know me, but you saved my life because the Hells Angels were kicking the dog shit out of me, and you fought to the center of that fight and protected my head. And if you had not been there, they would have killed me." So, like that's not a hero story. I'm not like none of my story is a hero story. I'm not trying to prepare myself, present myself, sell anybody that like I'm the knight in shining armor, that like I'm like the white hat cowboy that's coming in to save the day. But there's events like that took place where like, you have to engage and try to do the right thing.
So was there any times where the other guys that you were involved with wanted to go do some crazy stuff and you're like, listen, man, you're trying to talk them down?
Yeah.
Was there times you try to talk them down and you just can't, or?
Well, there's events that like you're when it's going to be violent, when it's going to be you know, life and death. Like I have an obligation to try to minimize those situations, try to diffuse those situations. I got sent on a murder mission from Phoenix to Las Vegas to go kill some rivals. So I'm playing along. I'm playing the part, and there was no ambiguity in the instructions. They told me, Jaybird, these dudes are going to show up. This is where they're going to show up. When they get there, if you don't kill them before they put their kickstands down, we're going to kill you. Those were the instructions, right? So I'm like moving from Phoenix to Vegas, like knowing that this is the situation I was in. Luckily, I was able to communicate to some case agents and my handler, like this is what's going on, man. That like I've got dudes following me that are expecting me to commit a murder. The cops on the outside of the scheme intercepted the potential victims and prevented them from getting to the location that I was supposed to make the killing at. Now, in the eyes of the Hells Angels, they didn't know that. All they knew is that Jaybird took these instructions, went to Vegas, and had an attitude to smoke some dudes, right? The victims never showed up. Hey, man, I can't control that. I can only control me.
Yeah. So there's a lot of in between, right? But I want to know, once this whole investigation comes to a halt, when it's finally revealed who you are to these people, what was the first time you like see these people and what is their reaction? What do they say to you? Like what?
Well, I'll tell you, it's actually, I don't know what word to use. One of the guys that I had become close to was under arrest and was being interviewed in a holding room, and would not believe that Jaybird Davis was a cop, was an agent.
He's like,
and I
no,
walked in,
no.
They brought me in. He was like saying, I don't believe it. I won't believe it till I see it, until I hear it come out of his mouth. So I walked in, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, I know today's a bad day, but it doesn't have to be the worst day, man. Like, you know, like use this as an opportunity to get yourself right. And I said, I'm not Jaybird Davis, the Hells Angel. I'm Jay Dobbins, an ATF agent. And he looked at me and he said, you know what, man? He said, I love you. And for over the last 2 years, that's the first true thing that you've ever said to me. Man, you're like, I don't feel good about that. I don't take any satisfaction in that. That I like lied to people and deceived them and made them believe something that was fictitious about me.
Was
But
it weighing
still
heavy
comes
on you?
back.
It was weighing
Like
on
you
you, huh?
can't get rid of you never get rid of the human factor. Like I had no, I'll tell you this, I never mocked anybody that was arrested. I never mocked or teased or made fun of anybody that was arrested behind an investigation that I was a part of. That's a tough day, man. When you're sitting on the sidewalk with your hands cuffed behind your back, I'm not going to go up and flaunt what I did in front of somebody. What I will do is see if you need a bottle of water or you want a cigarette. I'll put a cigarette in your mouth.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to be a human being with some compassion and some understanding of where that person is at that given point in time in their life, understanding that they are probably in that situation based on the friendship that I developed with them.
But you had a job to do, just like they were criminals. You had a job to do.
There's no secret to that. There's no mystery to anybody that's operating in gangland that there's people on the other side of that equation that are investigating them and trying to figure out what they're doing and trying to get under their wire. There's no secret to that.
Yeah, there's normal people who aren't even part of the law enforcement who are trying to bring them down, and like it's either money, drugs, there's all kinds of different things out there. My advice is just stay out of the bullshit. Like, you know, right?
Well, I've had people that were arrested behind my investigation, Hell's Angels in some of these examples, who have said, I don't like you. I don't like the way that you operated. I don't like what you did, but you were very good at what you did. You convinced me that you were someone other than who you were. And that's there's a game being played out there. There's a cat and mouse game.
Do you think it's harder for law enforcement to get a hold on infiltrating things with social media and cameras everywhere? It's getting harder for them to infiltrate, you think?
Harder. It's so much easier now to like truly figure out who someone is, through like all those sources and elements of information that we have access to just as civilians than it was 20 or 25 years ago.
Yeah, you can look at someone's social media and figure out what they're about. It's not,
Yeah. Yeah.
So this outcome of the investigation with these people, they'll go to court and things. What was the outcome?
Well, the outcome, which like I get criticized for a lot, we arrested like damn near 60 people during the investigation that I was a part of. Some of them on RICO charges. Some of them were death penalty candidates for murders they had committed, right? So there were some pretty dangerous people who had done some pretty wicked things.
Now, was this Fed case or was it a state case?
It was a federal case.
All right.
Yeah. And so as the case moves its way from the operational phase into the prosecution phase, the government, the case agent and the handlers and the prosecutors got into arguments on how this case should be presented in a courtroom. Those arguments led to accusations on both sides, prosecutors making accusations against agents, agents making accusations against prosecutors. And when that happens, like you have internally blown up your investigation. The Hells Angels didn't really need to defend themselves. They just needed to wait for the government to keep themselves alive.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, charges were dismissed. Some charges were dropped. I will say this, and anybody who knows me or knows what I did or knows truly what the facts are, they know that based on facts and evidence and testimony, that case is every bit as prosecutable today as it was 20 or 25 years ago.
Wow.
They know what they did. They know what they said. They know what the evidence is. Thousands of hours of audio and video recorded conversations. Hundreds and hundreds of pieces of physical evidence, guns, bombs, drugs, right? Like they know. But here's the beauty of
will it ever be
where we
prosecuted?
live. The beauty of being in the United States is that as the accused, you get to face your accuser. And you get to put on a defense and defend yourself and use all the means and methods that the law provides to you. And man, the Hells Angels have a massive and talented legal team behind it. They're like super smart attorneys. Now we didn't help ourselves by the infighting that took place. But in the end, like fair is fair, and the system worked as it's designed to. From my perspective, if you can't convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that that person is guilty of whatever the allegation is you're making against them, then they should go free.
Yeah. Exactly.
The system works.
And the feds have a 98% conviction rate. So I don't know, man. It sounds like it just fell apart. Like they weren't.
Well,
like
what,
you
the
said,
case
the
fell apart,
infighting.
and I was a very easy person to blame for it falling apart, because I was on the point.
What's good, everybody? Are you guys enjoying this interview? Hope everyone's having a great night. Did Pop's going to witness protection? No, he did not. No, he did not. I'm just doing a little intermission, What's up, DeWolf? Richard, how are you? North End Stories. Anthony Farrakano. Shout out to Anthony. Go check out How to Rob. It's a new movie. Anthony Farrakano plays a hitman. So go check it out. Nate, how are you, man? Shout out to Nate. Shout out to Tammy. Thank you. So we're going to get back to it. Thank you, Tammy. We're going to get back to the interview. If you can, donate to the channel or I'll shut this stream down. Let's get back to the show.
Point, I was the lead of the undercover team. So it's easy to say, oh, this dude was dirty, this dude was corrupt.
He pushed it too far, right? He pushed it too far.
Were there days where I went too far? Man, over the course of 2 years, man, there's things that I said that I shouldn't have said. There's things that I did that I shouldn't have done. None of those things ultimately would have impacted a successful or unsuccessful prosecution. They were just elements that needed to come out. But the true explanation, the true depth of why that investigation, the prosecution of it turned out to be something less than it either could have been or should have been, that really doesn't sit on my shoulders. I did my job the way I was supposed to, but the people who were responsible for letting it blow up, I was a very convenient scapegoat to just say hey, blame it on him and let's walk away and try again.
So now after this investigation is completed, they go to court and things. What happens next? Are you getting threats from people?
Well, during the legal process, like we said, the accused get to face their accusers, in our court system. So they learned that Jay Bird Davis, the gun runner, the debt collector, the hitman, was counterfeit, man. That he was actually Jay Dobbins, an ATF agent. Well, a tiger doesn't change his stripes. It's not all of a sudden like these guys are gonna like all of a sudden become meek and mild. Like, so the death threats started coming, right? They were betrayed. I get that, man. Anybody that's ever been betrayed, everybody that's ever been turned on or tricked, man, they have, like, you know what that humiliation feels like, and how insulting it is and embarrassing it is, right? So, when the death threats started coming, like it didn't shock me, it didn't surprise me. What surprised me is that my agency like showed no interest in reacting to them or investigating them or doing anything about it. I was told by the agency that I work for, dude, these dudes are too big. They're too massive. There's too many of them. And like, we don't even know where to start. You're on your own. Good luck.
What?
I was told like that, and that's like they're like, hey, dude, you're on your own. Figure it out. So
That's crazy.
so
That's insane.
earlier in our conversation, you'd ask me like,
Yeah, after when the threats are happening and the case is falling.
so I have like
fell apart.
confirmed, validated murder contracts being offered on like threats that were valid, credible threats. The people I work for didn't have any really interest in supporting me or helping me resolve that. And in the end, so you asked me like, did I have any inkling that there was, that things weren't good early in our conversation? And I said at that time there was no red flags, right?
Yeah.
Well, the red flags started showing up, and that, like the best way for me to sum it up is that I love ATF. I did everything I could for ATF. I love ATF. ATF just didn't love me back.
So there was a firebombing incident, right? That happened after. And do you think that was connected to this case?
Every indication, every bit of intelligence, every bit of knowledge that we had led any reasonable investigator to believe that the Hells Angels either did it or had a hand in it, had a hand in ordering it. And my agency, in order to protect themselves, like doubled down on me and tried to frame me as someone who like lit my own house on fire, and which is bad enough as it is, but my wife and my kids were home. So that in essence, they were alleging that I was willing to murder my own wife and kids. And so when we got to that point, the shit was on, man. I was like, you know what? Like I said, ATF, I loved ATF. ATF just didn't love me back. And I was like, okay, like, you know what? If this is the way we're going to play it, let's go.
Isn't it kind of like ironic how these guys feel betrayed by you, and then you go and you feel betrayed by your people that you're working for? It's like poetic justice, they call it.
It is. And in hindsight, it took me a while to settle my brain and to think about it that way. But so I spent my professional life living a lie, selling people that I was someone who I wasn't, living a false persona as an undercover agent. And I built friendships, and I built trust and loyalty, and then I would ultimately betray that in a courtroom, right? My family supported me, and there was times when I turned my back on my wife and my kids in exchange for my job and what I was doing. I betrayed my family. So then these threats come back on me, and I'm not happy with the way my agency reacts to them. And I felt betrayed by that. And when I looked at it that way, I was like, dude, you have it coming. This is karma, dude. You created this world. You spent your whole life betraying people. And then when you've been betrayed, now you don't like it. Now you're upset about it. You want justice, right? Doesn't work that way, dude. You know, like I got a taste of my own medicine. And you know what, man? Staxx, I didn't like it, dude. I didn't like what it felt like to be betrayed.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I hate getting betrayed. That's why I'm really cautious with people, and you know, I'm very leery about people.
Well, there's people that, you know, I was responsible for their, at least for their arrest, sometimes their conviction or incarceration, who looked at it the same way I did. Like, how you like it, dude? How do you like it when you trust someone, when you believe in someone, when you let your guard down, and then they turn on you and make you pay for your loyalty? How's that feel? And you know what? It sucks.
Yeah. Can you explain the fire incident? Like how it happened? Like what transpired that day?
Yeah, you know, like I was out of town, and 3 o'clock in the morning, my house got lit on fire. But like the one thing they did confirm is that it wasn't an accident. It wasn't like an electrical short or a lightning strike. They confirmed like someone or multiple people came onto your property at 3 o'clock in the morning and intentionally set your house on fire.
So you get a phone call and they say, what, your house is burnt?
Yeah, and my family like barely escaped. Like they, you know, the house, like they didn't realize that the house was on fire when it was on fire. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was asleep. My son, who was plus or minus 10 years old at the time, actually got woken up by the fire because the window in his bedroom exploded from the heat.
Oh,
And
man.
he was like, man, the house is on fire. And he went and grabbed, you know, my wife and woke my wife up and got my daughter, and they got out of the house. They had some smoke inhalation problems, but like they watched our house burn to the ground.
So basically everything you own is burnt now, right? So you're out of town. Are
Well,
you?
there's people, you know what? There's people who don't like me out there who celebrate that, and then I get it. I get it. There's people out there who like enjoy that and have pleasure, like knowing that we got attacked to that level, and lost everything. And ultimately, because I challenged the agency, I lost my career behind it. I lost my reputation behind it. I lost friends behind it. And you know, there's people that say, well, you had it coming. And you know what? Maybe I did. Maybe I did.
So nothing came about with the fire investigation. They didn't find anybody. It was.
Well, they put their resources in the wrong direction. All the evidence and intelligence and information and witness accounts and statements indicated this is where you chase this investigation if you really want to find it. The investigators ignored all those things and focused on trying to frame me.
Because they weren't happy with you at this point. They're like, nah, we're gonna
Oh man, when I stood up to the agency, dude, like I became public enemy number one.
Did you have friends that were close to you turn their back when you did that?
I did. I had some that like just stayed loyal and stuck with me when it was a very unpopular thing to do. But I also had a handful of people that I believed in, that I trusted, who like either kept their mouth shut, stepped back, just wanted no part of the truth. And so, but that's part of life, man. You find out you find out what people's true colors are, not when things are good, but when things are bad.
Yeah. Is there any was there any funny situations that happened that stand out in your head during the investigation with these guys on the bikes? Were there any like, damn man, I'll never forget that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of them, small ones, bigger ones. I think anybody that, like, I've never tried to portray that my time as an undercover agent, like every day was miserable and terrible. Like I loved my job. I loved going to work. And so, like, did I laugh along the way? Yeah, man, I did. Like, I've never tried to portray that, like, I threw myself on the sword and I was miserable every day, like, for the greater good.
Yeah.
I had days when I laughed. Like I said, I loved my job every day. No one held a gun to my head and made me take any assignment. No one forced me into any assignment. I volunteered into every assignment I ever had.
So with Sonny Barger passing away, right? Arizona, there was a big memorial for him and all that. When you were involved with these Hells Angels guys, did they have any dealings with, I know Sammy the Bull is out there on the West Coast, and he was trying to be this, I don't know, he was trying to start his own mafia or something after he cooperated. He went out to the West Coast, started this drug operation. Was he involved at all with these guys or any dealings with them?
If he was, I don't have any information on it. I know Sammy's story. I know he got put in WITSEC and he was relocated to the Phoenix area and got involved in, ecstasy trafficking. And like I know the story, like the same as anybody, like public civilian consumer of information does.
But was there any like mob guys involved with them? Is kind of like the
there
question.
Was some traditional organized crime, on the fringes. None that like I was like intimately aware of or participating in, and with Sonny's passing, and the celebration of life that was for him. Then the guy's, he's an icon. He's a worldwide known figure. And I've said many times, publicly and privately, that if Sonny had used his character traits, his intelligence, his charm, his intimidation at times, all these things about him, if he had used like all those powers for good, like I have no doubt that he would have been the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Like, look what that dude built. Look what he built. Like I don't agree with everything, with the life he lived or the world he lived in or what he created. But I do understand who he was and what he stood for. And there's elements of that are, that I understand. Like he believed in his brotherhood. He believed in his team above all else. And I understand that the guy was a worldwide icon. When he passed, I took no satisfaction in his passing.
Was he out there? Was he out there at the time of the investigation? And did you have any dealings with him?
Yeah, I crossed paths with Sonny a couple times, and I always had good experiences with him. Like he was never on the point. I never got close enough to him to really have any other opinion other than my overlap with him. Like I had pleasant experiences with him. I don't agree with his, his lifestyle. I don't agree with him being portrayed as, as heroic. He built and led an international organized crime syndicate, and that's undisputable. But I also understand the admiration that is for him, and the the heartache that was created by his passing. Like I said, I took no satisfaction in Sonny's passing. He's a Sonny and his gang are a part of Americana.
Yeah, it's the American culture, man. Like Harleys and beautiful women, all that, cheeseburgers. It's the American
Like it or
dream,
don't
right?
like it, and it doesn't matter what side you fall on, the Hell's Angels are iconic.
So what do you think is the future for the Hells Angels and the Mongols with I know the Outlaws and the Mongols are having some rumblings up there in Chicago. I know that there's some rumblings with the Banditos down there in Texas. And there's just things going on all over the country, Mongols, Outlaws, and this and that. What do you think the future is for the Mongols or the Outlaws or any of these groups? What do you think the future is for them?
There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be rivalry. There's always going to be battle and competition for territory. Everyone's trying to be, the big dog on the porch. The truth is, the Hells Angels are the king of the mountain, and I don't see that ever changing. They have name recognition. They have the history. They have the mythical element about them. I will say this: when our case ended, news reports and people on the law enforcement side were saying like what a life-altering, organization-altering investigation, Operation Black Biscuit was, and what we had done. The truth is, Jay Dobbins, Jay Bird Davis was nothing more than a speed bump on the Hells Angels highway. Like I slowed them down for a little bit, but they're bigger and badder and stronger now than they were before I crossed paths with them. I didn't have much impact on who they are or what they do.
What was the reason for the name Black Biscuit?
The case agent picked it. We was trying to find something that would not draw any attention to any outside eyes or anybody that might be peering in on what we were doing. And when I asked him, like, what do you title in this case? And he said, I'm going to call it Operation Black Biscuit. And I'm like, dude, you can't, that's racist, man. You can't do that. That's a bad choice, man. And he's like, what's wrong with you, man? There's nothing racist about it. He was a hockey fan. He's like, Black Biscuit is a hockey puck, man.
It's the puck,
yeah. It has nothing to do with nothing, man.
Yeah. I think a lot of this woke culture is taking things a little too far, man. It's crazy.
Well, and this was before like all the wokeness was like in our face every day. But my instant reaction was Black Biscuit, man. I'm not sure that's cool, man. I'm not sure we can do that. He's like, dude, chill out. It's a hockey puck.
Yeah, it's wild. So what's in the future for you, man? I know you got a book, No Angel, and I'm gonna put a link in the description. If anyone wants to pick up his book, the link will be in the description of this video. What's in the future for you, and what's up with the book, man?
Dude, like I'm back like I was when I was a failed football player, man. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. I'm not sure. I coached high school football for an extended period of time. I'm not doing that anymore. I think it's important for any of us, not just me, not just you, and the things that you've overcome and how you've changed your life. But anybody out there that hears this is that wherever it is in your life, if you ever get to the point where you feel like you've reached your peak and that whatever it is that you're doing, you've already reached your best and you've accomplished everything you need to accomplish, and that's a bad point to be at in your life. You always need to be striving to do something new, different, to make an impact, to change the world, to influence someone, to inspire someone. Like for me, what that is, I don't know, trying to figure it out. But I refuse to accept that whatever my best is behind me. I insist on believing that whatever my best is still out in front of me.
Yeah, the best moment of my life is right now because it's the only moment you'll never get back, and you need to live.
Well, in coaching my football kids, like the things that I tell those players, they apply to all of us. I tell them, if you want something that you never had, you're going to have to do things you've never done to get it.
Yeah.
Right? That's not football. That's life. If you want people to remember your name, you have to do something they can never forget. Like, what is that? For me, I guess maybe the best thing for me when I come full circle is that I've become more spiritual in all this.
Yeah.
I've become less selfish. I went through a phase in my life during what we've been talking about where I was very selfish. I did things for myself, motivated for what was good for me, what I wanted to do. I've become much more spiritual, like through some of the bad things that have happened to me. I know this, I've learned that if the only time you're talking to God is when you're in trouble, you're in trouble.
That's a good analogy, man.
Yeah.
So this is a very important question, and a lot of people out there probably in this situation. And what advice would you give for the guy who just put a prospect patch on in any motorcycle organization? What is your advice for that guy?
To be honest with you, and to treat people and their personal choices with dignity and respect, I wouldn't tell anybody to not do that. I wouldn't tell anybody to like take that rocker off, take that cut off. But I would say be fully aware of what it means, of what that lifestyle holds. I think that there's people who put a rocker on, put a cut on, you know, that has whatever that center patch might be, whatever that top rocker's identification of the club or gang that you're in. When you do that, just have open eyes and clear understanding of what it means and the lifestyle that you're entering. Because in the Hells Angels world, which is my point of reference, like there's a lot that comes with that is non-negotiable. The name Hells Angels, that death head center patch, the cut you wear, that is their it's their life, it's their religion. And if you don't fully understand that, then you're going to get your head caved in the process because it's non-negotiable.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different stipulations for people to even be in clubs, right? Like you need to make a certain amount of money. You need to live up to a certain standard. You can't just be some low-level junkie on this corner with a motorcycle, right?
No, I think that there's, and again, I keep referencing the Hells Angels because that's my point of reference, but there's hundreds of thousands of dudes out there who would love to put a Hells Angels cut on, right? That ride a motorcycle, that are whatever, that's the lifestyle that they would choose to engage in if they were given the opportunity. But the Hells Angels aren't interested in those dudes. It's like they want people to be a part of their organization that brings some kind of value to them. It's not just about having a motorcycle or having a certain look or having tattoos or earrings or your head shaved or long hair or goatee or whatever it is. Like you want to be part of that world, you better have a value to bring to the table for them, because there's hundreds of thousands of dudes that don't have value out there that are sitting at the corner of the bar of some tavern that they want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's true, man. Well, damn, man, this is great interview, and you gave me a lot of great information. And what's in the store for the future with you? Are you working on any books? Are you gonna do any podcasts? Are you not sure still? Like,
I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know. Like I try to enjoy every day, like you said a few minutes ago. I try to live and enjoy where my feet are at that very moment.
yeah.
And I think that's an important way to go through life. When you publish this, like on your sidebar comments, like we had this conversation before we started recording. Like, don't think that I don't know that I'm going to get chewed up in those comments. Don't think that I don't know that I'm going to get criticized and called a drug addict and a liar and a betrayer and a rat. And like, man, I know that's coming. I know
people call me a rat, man. I'm not even in the streets no more. Like, I changed my life. I got off drugs. I'm not in the streets. I bring people like you on, and they call me a rat. So they can say whatever they want. It's irrelevant.
Well, you know, the thing is that the people that don't like me or that want to call me names or criticize me or whatever, like, here's the thing. I do respect people's opinions. I think people have the right to whatever their opinion is. They have the right to feel about me however they want to feel about me. And like, if you want to get on your keyboard and, you know, type something in the sidebar, that's whatever your opinion is, then that's the world we live in. And if I wasn't willing to accept that and accept those criticisms and hear that name calling, then I shouldn't have ever agreed to sit down and have this chat with you, because that's coming.
Yeah, you think so? I don't think so, man. I'm optimistic though. So
Well, you know what? Like to pretend like that I don't care, then I care. Like, I think we all want to be liked. We all want to like have some element of respect from people. That's human nature in all of us.
are you cool with
but
anyone from that investigation from back
I
in
am.
the day?
I am.
You still are?
I
Wow.
am. I am.
So see,
There's
if people can
people
see that, then like, if you're still cordial with people that were in that investigation, still cordial with them now, and they're able to accept that and move on, then that shows you that there's people out there who have good hearts and are willing to you know, see the reality of the situation.
Well, like, you know what, the people that I have maintained relationships with after the fact, who've gotten to know me more as a person, they understand that, like, that I never set out to ruin their lives. I never, and I never, discussed this earlier. I never mock people. I never, I always try to treat people with dignity. Even in my book, even people that have read No Angel, I've gotten comments and messages from people, you know, in the investigation saying, like, I don't really care for you, and I don't care for what you did or the techniques you used, but you treated us with dignity. You treated us honestly. You didn't try to punk us. You didn't try to portray us as, you know, like some street bitches. You portrayed us as to who we are, which are some of the baddest cats to walk on the planet. Like, I like it. Like, that doesn't make me, like, to try to minimize that doesn't make me any bigger. It doesn't, you know, to try to avoid who they are and what they stand for.
Some of these guys have an aura, man. I know what you're saying too. Like, when they walk in the room, they have an aura about themselves, and it's like, it's wild.
Yeah. So, like, you know, I try to be respectful of people and their opinions and whatever their comments might be, and just like they don't necessarily agree with everything I've done and said. I necessarily agree with everything they do and say. And we just, we agree to disagree with them.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. And you're welcome to come back anytime. If you want to do it live, if you want to do another interview, we can always chop it up. You're always welcome back here.
All right, Staxx. Well, good luck to you. Stay on a good path. Like, keep making good choices. And whoever hears this in your audience, whether you like me or don't like me, man, God bless, man. Go be amazing. Go change the world in whatever way you choose to change it for the better.
And go get his book before you do that. It's No Angel, and then the link will be in the description of this video. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. Till next time. Peace. Thank you, man. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Chatting with Staxx. So that was the interview I did with Jay Dobbins. He's the undercover agent that investigated the Hells Angels in Arizona. And so if you guys don't know, Buffalo Bill, what's up? If you guys don't know, I'm just playing some of the interviews I did in the past. I'm going to play a few of them tonight, and we're going to go over them. See no evil. How are you, bro? Buffalo Billy, what's up? Tammy, how are you? So, the next interview we're going to get into is Mr. Stephen Gillian. Shout out to Stephen Gillian. Stephen Gillen. He has a pretty crazy story. I interviewed him a while ago, but let's get into his story and I'll be back. Hope you guys are enjoying this. A lot more big interviews are coming. I got something major coming very soon. I've been working really hard to bring you guys some of the best content on YouTube, and you guys will see for yourself. I can show you better than I can tell you. But let's get into Stephen's story. Shout out to Stephen Gillen. Hit the like button, and here we go. Welcome to another episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Stephen Gillian. How you doing, man?
Hi, Bill. How are you doing? Big hello to everyone out there too.
Thank you so much for joining me. I seen you on a couple of podcasts, and you have a really intriguing story, and I wanted to know more. You want to tell the people where you were born and raised?
I was born in England, Bill, but as a born baby, 6 months old, I was taken to Belfast. You know, this was back in the day when the war was really, really heavy there. Mm-hmm. I stayed there till I was 9, and I come back to London, East London, back to England. But of course, you know, I see a lot of traumas. I went through a lot of stuff over there.
Yeah, you seen an experience when you were 7, right? You saw some murders.
Look, you know, you're talking about a very nasty war. All wars are nasty. It was certainly nasty there. There was, you know, you're talking about when I was young, Bill. I didn't know. Of course, I was a baby in the pram, but sometimes guns and stuff like that would be put under my blankets to get through the checkpoints. This kind of life, you know, a lot of suspicion, a lot of murders over there. You know, a lot of bad stuff going on, a lot of darkness. You know, I see.
What year was all this going on?
This is early 70s. You know, early 70s. I was born in 1971. So, you know, if you're looking at that period, the early 70s, you know, up to the 80s. So this was early 70s. You know, when I was 7, over there, I see someone murdered in front of me, shot, you know, in a gun battle. I had to watch that. You know, I was hiding behind a hedge, a young child. I had to watch, you know, as he died in front of me. So I see a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's really terrible. So would you have to move around a lot when you were with your family when the war was going on and all this confrontation?
It's kind of there. I mean, we started off in the slums there, Bill. You know, we really did in the start of it. You know, the newspapers and all this have made a big thing about that because, you know, I started there to where I am now. I mean, the houses that we was in, them tenements then, was so bad that when we moved, they were so bad a few years after. I didn't know, I'm still a young boy, but they knocked them down, you know, because they wasn't fit to live in, you know. But after that, you kind of, war creates a lot of scarcity, you know, a lot of hardships. You know, there wasn't no work. There was none of that stuff over there. It was just a lot of violence, a lot of bloodshed. So they was hard times, and people would not really go out, Bill, unless they had to, right?
Yeah. What were your ambitions back then when you were a kid? Do you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I think in them days I was too young, Bill, you know, and to be honest, because of the way the world was outside the door, I wasn't really allowed out, you know. So I was the kid who'd be upstairs looking out the window at some of the other kids who'd be allowed out, right, playing on the street, wishing that could be me, right?
Yeah. So when you started getting older, what experiences did you have when you started to get older, and where did your family, what progression happened with your family?
Well, I moved. I didn't move. I was sent away from Belfast at age 9. My surrogate mother died over there. You know, who was my carer.
Sorry for
So
your loss.
yeah, well, she was a wonderful person. You know, she was my moon and my stars. She was everything. But you know, it's worth mentioning because it was a big turning point in my life, obviously. But so the men of the family, they thought, you know, because of everything, I should go back to England. You know, so I was sent back to England and East London. So, you know, I was your typical child, 9-year-old child with a little case on the boat, right, going across the water like an immigrant,
Yeah, it's
literally.
like a new world to you. You're like,
Absolutely.
who are they sending you to go stay with at that time?
They were sending me over to my mother, you know, because my mother, you know, she had stayed in England to try and build some kind of a life for us.
So what happened once you got there? Were you a mischievous kid?
I Yeah, I mean the trouble started then. You know, East London, of course, I was right in the middle of that. You know, it's a very fast place, but it's nothing like a war zone where they're shooting it out morning, noon, and night in street corners, right? Martial law. It's a
Yeah.
different world. So I'd always do more, I'd always be more. Of course, I was a bit different. I'd get into a lot of fights. You know, but I had a lot of friends and you know, I was left to fend for myself, really, you know, in many ways, because I become a lot of trouble. This was the start of it. I was a very angry young man, Bill.
How would you make money in your early days? How would you support yourself, like once you became like a teenager and all that growing up?
Well, look, you know, the middle bit is I was the feral kid out in the street, you know, out all hours of the night then, right? Street urchin, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I had to survive. I had to create my own family. I had to go through a lot of children's homes, foster parents, of course, where I never stayed at. I'd always run away and this kind of stuff. So I progressed from, you know, street crime, petty crime, really, really quickly into organized crime, you know, guns and heavy stuff and violence. I mean, I was there when I was about 15, 16, really, really there with this stuff.
Is there any situations that you could think of that happened around that time that you can explain to me?
Oh, there was many. I mean, you know, I was sent away when I was 14. That was the first time I was sent away because I was so bad, you know. And then, you know, I was sent away for a stabbing when I was 16. You know, GBH, you know, this kind of stuff. And you know, the
What
gun
what
stuff.
what led you to do the stabbing? Like what led you to go that route?
I was, you know, I was already kind of shaped in a way. I was already shaped as a very angry kind of young man who had a lot of trauma, who was by himself, who, you know, had been groomed, you know, by all the older ones, because the ones I was around, they was really uh, prominent criminal families of the day, right? So
Yeah.
I was a great target for that, and you know, I went into that life really, really easy. This was my surrogate family. So these was the learnings that I had and the role models that I had. And of course, I had this thing in me, Bill, it has to be said. You know, I had the anger in me. I had the madness in me. I was, you know, I'd always do more than anyone else, be gamer than anyone else, you know, which was a crazy thing, but it has to be said that was me in the old days, you know, and this continued to paint a picture.
Yeah, you would go a little extra than everyone else would.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when going to being locked up and sent away, was that like a rite of passage? Because I know in the US, when I was a kid, I was hanging around gang members, and once I went to prison, it was kind of like I went to college for criminals. You know, I learned more more ways on how to act. I learned on what to do, and you know, is that how it is out in London too?
It is. It has to be said. I mean, I can remember as a young kid, you know, the first time you go there, obviously I was a child when I went there, 14. But, you know, you get through that. You know, you're made of tough stuff. I was in them days. You find your way through that. So you realize there's no more lions and tigers there no more because you kind of done that, right? It is a
Yeah.
university of crime, you know. So, you know, it's unhelpful, you know, for teenagers, children to go through that and be influenced further when they're still learning. You know, and a lot of the guys even there where we was really young kids, really skinny kids, would go on to be really notorious names of the day here, you know, but we started there, Bill.
Do you remember some of the notorious names from back then when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, there was a few. I mean, there were some of the guys there from the Tottenham riots just later on, you know, and there were some policemen got killed and other names, and you know, armed robbers, really, you know, top echelon armed robbers, you know, and other mobsters and other, you know, other heads of criminal gangs or would be heads of very very prominent criminal gangs there. You know, we was there as skinny kids, really, Billy. It has to be said.
So once you went away, did it get a little more organized? And once you got out back onto the street?
I kind of, you know, I used to box a little as well when I was young. I was a really fit one and we was fighting all the time. You know, unfortunately, not just like, you know, with other gangs and other inmates and that sort, but the officers so much as well. I mean, I was terrible in them days. I really wouldn't take it with no one. I wouldn't advise other people to do this. But the truth is, I found it very hard to cope with myself, Bill. It was just the way I responded to the world, really. In many ways, it was a defense mechanism. And you'll be so bad like that, people will leave me alone, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much, right?
I was the same way. I was the same way.
So it was a lot of that. When I look back and I'm not a lot of this stuff now with the wisdom, you know, and experience. I can see that it was a lot of that too.
So you're an author. So were you writing back then when you were incarcerated as a child, like in your time?
If people say to me, I mean, I'm a successful global entrepreneur in many fields, you know, I really changed my life. We'll get into that. But if you was to ask me back then, what innate skills did I have? I was a good writer and I was a good speaker. The rest I learned. You know, and the thing was, Bill, you know, in them days, I was such a bad prisoner, you know, high security. I was in units as well, special units. So I was deemed as, you know, some of the worst of the worst. So they couldn't really manage and control and all this kind of stuff. We wouldn't really have a lot, you know. So, you know, maybe a paper, a pen, you know, everything was security, right? And monitored and containment.
Yeah.
So this is where I started to write. Yeah, I started the writing journey then, way back.
Yeah. So when I was looking into your background, I know that you were locked up with Charles Bronson.
I know Charlie very well. I mean, you know, I know all them guys, Bill, really, you know, because we was category A. So all the category A guys, all the notorious, all the infamous, all the high echelon guys would be that. You know, it's what they do over here. I suppose like penitentiary over there, and then they have certain super maxes there where only certain guys can go of a certain level. So, you know, I mean, one of my sentences was 17 years. So, you know, I'd done 11 years, 9 months out of that continuous. I was released to category A too. So I was with Charlie in many units. I got to know Charlie very well, you know, and all them guys, we was all together because we'd be shipped round and round to the same places over all them years, right?
Yeah. So do you want to explain what the whole case behind why you got the 17 years?
Yeah, it was armed robbery. You know, I had we used to rob anything that moved back in the day. You know, really, it was just as easy as that. You know, all kinds of stuff. You know, all kinds of stuff, and a lot of people around me and my family. In them days, there'd been a big operation. You know, in East London. A lot of the known armed robbers then of the day had been cleared up, you know, by the flying squad there. So, you know, a lot of my resources and friends, even family, you know, had been taken over that period of 2 years of what was going on there. So I was working with other guys. You know, I had three armed robbery trials. I beat the first one at the Old Bailey. I beat the second one at the Old Bailey, but I got guilty for possession of firearms. And the third one, I got guilty. It was a radio. You know, there were shots fired at police, you know, and all this kind of stuff. But then I got my big sentence.
Wow. So what would be your typical day if you're not out doing robberies? Would you plan them during the day? Like,
it's a life of organized crime, to be honest with you, Bill. We're involved in all kinds of things. It's about money, right? And them days for that kind of stuff, it's about greed, you know. And of course, we ran all the faces, we call them over here, all the names of the day. You know, I mean, you know, I would know everyone in all different parts of London, like you would maybe in New York or, you know, Philadelphia or Boston or Connecticut, and further afield. So we was really into the rackets, really. We'd be into anything. I mean, that's the truth. I don't want to go into a litany of criminality, but all of it, you know, the armed robbery, the whole 9 yards, the whole bit. Whatever was working was safe, you know, and was worth to be, you know, was worth it to be doing and who to do it with, you know. But it's a hard game. You know, this life, it's wrong. It's wrong. And, you know, it's going to force you to do things that's wrong and be with people who are wrong. So there are not good endings in a life like this.
Definitely not. So you know how the New York mob is ran. How is organized crime ran in London? Is it a similar operation, the way the structure is of the criminal organizations out there in London, or are they different than the way it is in New York?
In many ways it is. In the loose associations of guys coming together for a criminal enterprise, of course it is. Because, you know, it's a very kind of family-orientated thing. And we would come up, we would be known, but you may have went to school with some of these guys, or you may have done some work with them, and he's so-and-so's brother, and his uncle or his father so-and-so. So everyone knows everyone, and it's more loosely connected in the sense there's no burning the saint or the blood oath.
Yeah, but is there a boss? Like, is there a main boss that they kick up money to, pay tribute to?
In ways there are, because what happens is these gangs, they come up, they get very successful. It's, you know, the dynamics within them. There's usually someone that always rises, but when they get really, really successful, because you have to come up with the money, Bill, you know what it's like. The money is the thing, and then you can do more, be more, have more control. Then, of course, you know, a boss in a hierarchy always shows itself quicker, sooner rather than later. So, yeah, of course there is. And it's exactly the same, it has to be said. The only difference is they wouldn't be burning the same, but in some instances there would be certain guys that have a certain role, you know, like a capo or whatever, you know, they'd be in charge of certain areas or whatever. So it's the same thing.
So do they try to get involved with the industry, such as the unions and stuff like that out there in London too?
It's different, but it's the same. We don't really have unions here as such, the way the structure is, but of course it's business led, you know, but it has to be said, it's the same thing. And what I've learned is, look, you know, there are different kinds of gangs and different kinds of gangsters and different kinds of mobsters, you know, but a true kind of gangster and mobster, if you want to talk, you know, you've got your street guys who are the violent guys who go out and do that stuff, the rough stuff. But then you've got the other ones who are the brains, the kind of business people, you know, and they're there too. And I suppose if you're looking for the real ones who can do both, then this is something else, right? This is what I've learned.
Yeah, the ones that could direct traffic and jump in the car and drive it too.
They do both. They do both, you know, and they're the one. They're the bosses. They're the bosses. In my experience, they're the ones who become bosses because they have the, you know, they have the acumen and they have the fierceness, right?
Yeah. So I was in and out of prison for a lot of years, and I thought my life would never stop. I thought it was a constant cycle. I thought I would die in prison. So did you think the same way? And when did you know that you wanted to change your life?
It's funny you say that, Bill, because you know what? It was desperate. Desperate is the word. If someone asked me to put it in one word, I'd say desperate. I find it really easy because it was desperate. I mean, I didn't think I would get out of there. I think I'll be killed or I'd kill someone else, or, you know, there was a lot of violence in there, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there's nowhere to go in there. You have to face it, right? And you go round and round with it, right?
You have no choice. Like you can't.
This is the environment, right? I mean, you know, I see a couple of guys in there killed in front of me, right? Literally in front of me there, right? So, you know, I've seen this a few times, and in there, it's a very violent place, as you know, when it comes, right?
Yeah.
So these are terrible places to have to live, right? You know, and go through, right? You know, that's my experience. So, you know, I come out of that, but you know, I was really entrenched in the criminality and that lifestyle for so long, which is one of the things that's wonderful, you know, about me today, and shows that you know, being so entrenched in it all the way through, you know, to such, you know, a high level as well, but to be able to completely do a 360 on my life. It is possible. Of course it is. People are doing it all the time, you know, and I'm living history of that, Bill. You know, so are you.
Yeah, I was in prison. I was on the street, homeless, and I'm a world away from where I was, and I wouldn't change it for anything. You know, my goal is to just help people and be successful in my ventures. And so on your last prison sentence, what was that like? Because I found myself trying to do better when I was in prison. And I know that's a hard thing to do because it's a violent place, like you said, and people they don't want to do good in there. A lot of people don't, not all of them, but a lot of people in there are doing the wrong thing. And it's kind of hard to stay out of trouble when you're in there. So, did you make the decision to change your life when you were in prison, or did you get out and then start getting used to?
Tough. Yeah, it was tough for me because even when I come out, you know, I remember that day they made up the prison service, they made up this big like thing about, you know, I wasn't meant to be released. That was just to hold me. So I wasn't released in the morning where I should have been. I was released in the evening when the courts was coming in, Bill. And that's because they had an observation squad out there waiting for me because they're getting the team ready, right? They're waiting for time. So it was fucked up, you know, it really was. It was like I'd done 12 years, all of that, big chunk of my life, a living hell. I went through one door into another outside, but then it was like them 12 years had disappeared and I was right back at where I started before. It was horrendous, it really was. So I had to, you know, I had a lot of attention and stuff, you know, and of course I had to, you know, I had to get my life together, you know, and after doing so long, people have to understand that it can take you a few years to get into a long-term sentence like that, but it can take you a couple of years, and it does at the other end, to get into normal living, right?
Yeah, you get institutionalized. Thank God I never got that far, but I know people who have. Like, I know people who have done crazy things once they were released to go back to prison, and that's crazy. I just because they can't live without the structure in their life, you know. So I want to talk about some of the things you have coming out, like your book and your the crime files and all this stuff that you have going on. How did you get involved with all that once you were released from prison? Like what were the steps you took to get involved and be a productive member of society?
I really built my life again, brick by brick, Bill. Really, I had to. I remember I had all kinds of problems, even addiction, right? And I went into a place, I can remember, the guy was still friends now. He owned the place in there, and he said, "Steve, you only need to change one thing." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Everything."
Yeah.
But that stuck with me, right? Because that's the succinct answer. I had to change everything. I had to, in many ways, be the opposite of what I was, right? I had to do a lot of work. I had to do a lot of giving. I'd done a lot of voluntary work. I didn't have no money or stuff like that. I had to learn about me. I had to learn about life. I had to learn actually what I liked, what I didn't like. I had to learn all of that stuff. I had to learn how to live. I had to take it down from basics. I had some true people in my life. Of course, they was my support and my guidance, and my family in them days. They had some companies, lorries and different stuff. So I was lucky enough. I went to work with them. I started at the bottom. I was given a harder road because my family are like that. I wasn't given an easier road, right? But I had the opportunity, but I had to take it. I had to work for it. I had to prove it. So I went from laborer to supervisor, to running my own contracts. Then I left the family to having my own business within 18 months. That was the start for me.
18 months from getting out of prison, you did all that?
Well, it was, I had about 9 months before that sorting myself out, Bill. But then when I went to work, I was ready for work. I got my head down. I had to learn how to be a normal guy. It was good for me. Be humble, and learn and start from the bottom. I had to start from the bottom, But I had to drive, and I was happy to do stuff, and I recreated my life, and that was the start. That was the start of me. That was the start for me.
So when is this book? This book's already released? Is that correct?
Yeah, the Monkey Puzzle Tree, Bill, has been out a year now. It's gonna be a movie. You know that it's been optioned to be a movie, right?
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. A major movie. It's got a big budget. We've got the script and everything. We're going to be filming it, a lot of it in the studio in Hollywood, right? Next year. So it's quite a story, believe you me. It's all over the press, and it has been, it has been for a year now.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all that, man. It's really incredible. I know you have your own. Is it an app, or you go on the TV and you can get it on Prime or something, right?
Yeah, we have the Stephen Gilland crime files. This is in association with Film Vault and Media Eye Digital. So I signed a worldwide TV deal with Film Vault, who's a global aggregate. That's a distributor of TV, film content. We've been building this now, for 9 months. Of course, I've got a YouTube channel. This is a smaller thing. I've interviewed a lot of the top mob guys. We do a lot of work. I'm going into the Russian mafia now, and we've got some unbelievable documentaries and series and different stuff now on the slate. We're going to be filming this year, so we're live. We've just recently built and finished our own studio with offices and all that. We put a lot of money in there and got that right because of the level we need to film at. So this is going to be exciting. So we're already on Roku TV, other digital platforms, Fimto and all that. We just went live on Amazon Fire TV to another 15 million audience just before Christmas. But in the next 6 to 9 months, we've got a roadmap, and this is contracted, obviously, where we're going to be migrating to many of the main top TV platforms like Sony, Sky, Netflix, Apple TV, Samsung TV. You know, there's going to be a lot of work and a lot of stuff, but it's very exciting because we're already streaming worldwide.
That's incredible, man. To go from where you've been and to go from being in prison and being the kid with the bag going across the ocean, you know, to being where you are now, it's incredible. And I definitely commend you for your work, man.
Listen, thank you, you know, really thank you. And yeah, you have to work at it, you know. Life is challenging anyway. What is important is that you sort yourself out, you know, you work hard at it, you know, you be honest, and you get good people around you. You know, the people in your life are very, very important, Bill.
Yeah, definitely. I hear it all the time. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
My old mother used to say that. Do you know what? She's so, you know, she's so right. She's so right. Yeah, so true.
Yeah, it's true. My mother used to say, you're going to get in some trouble that I can't help you out of. And she was right. I'm like, Mom, help me. And she couldn't do anything. It's too late. You know Joey Pyle, right?
Yeah, I know Joe very well. I mean, I knew older Joe, bless his soul, you know.
Yeah.
I knew Joe very, very well. And I know younger Joe too, yeah.
Yeah, I've had Junior on my show. Shout out to Joey Pyle.
Yeah, shout out to Joey. They was, you know, his father, he was a class act, you know, he was a very, very respected man. He was a good friend of mine. And young Joe the same.
So who are some of the people that you have interviewed on your show? I know that there's some big names.
God, you know, I've got some billionaires on there that I've done. Michael Francis, Bobby Louisi, John A-Line, Anthony Artarala, you know, people like that. There's a lot on there, really.
Yeah, I have a ton too, and I have a lot more coming. And I definitely want to have you back on in the future, and we could collaborate on some stuff. And I'm going to put your link in the description for the people. And where can they buy your book? Is it on Amazon?
They can get the book on Amazon, Bill, or anywhere like that. If they want a signed copy, you know, and my signature means anything to them, they can go, you know, to my personal site. There's a ton of free stuff on there as well. www.stephengillen.com. But look, you know, we'll put some links underneath and go into the Crime Files, guys, on the TV and different stuff. We're going to be bringing a lot of really exclusive, highly produced content on there, and some really cool stuff, Bill, you know.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time for me, and looking forward to having you on in the future. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. Until next time. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks.
What's good, everybody? Thank you for joining me tonight. If you guys don't know what we're doing, I'm playing some of my old interviews, and we're going over some of the old things that I've done, and we're going to get into it. So, the Bulger skit was hilarious. Bulger. I say his name wrong all the time. So, some people are running their mouth saying, that wasn't Bulger's grave. That wasn't Bulger's grave. Yes, it was. 100% it was Bulger's grave. 100%. There's no question. I don't know why you would think it wasn't. Idiots. And anyone that sticks up for Whitey Bulger is a douchebag. Okay, so that's let's take a look at that clip, shall we? Tell me what you guys think of this. Hold on, man. How's things been? How's business been?
Good. Awesome. Love it. Super nice. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Hey, there he is.
Hey,
Hey, fucking Whitey.
oh, we've been looking for you, Whitey. You got you a present.
Hey, can you hear me? I got you a Happy Meal.
There, buddy.
We got you a Happy Meal, pal.
Hey, Paul and Freddie send their regards from Hazelton. They were,
Why do you gotta fucking smoke? Why do you gotta fucking smoke?
I'm trying to quit.
Dude,
Did you take the bun off?
yeah, I took the bun off him because he likes the meat.
He likes
He's got
the
this
meat.
thing about the six-pack he thought he had back in the day.
Okay.
Him and fucking Weeks used to stand outside the garage. Him and a stupid fucking muscle shirt.
You can fucking box. Really? Leave it on the top.
Look at that. I'm gonna blow off.
I don't give a fuck. Leave the fucking box.
Hey, I took the fucking toy too. Fucking toy too.
All right. If you guys can see this, right? Can you guys see where it's spray painted? Where the spray paint was removed? Can you see that? It's like an X. Here, let me get the picture because I could show you. Let me see. Somebody went there and spray painted his grave. All right, you ready? So people are saying, that's not Whitey's grave. That's not Whitey's grave. Yes, it is. Watch this. What's that look like? See the spray paint? It's Whitey's grave. Boom. And you notice the dirt doesn't grow over where his body is. Watch. It's crazy.
Good. Awesome. Love it. Super nice. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Hey, there he is.
Hey,
Hey, fucking Whitey.
oh, we've been looking for you, Whitey. You got you a present.
Hey, can you hear me? I got you a Happy Meal.
It's the regards from Hazelton. They were,
Why do you gotta fucking smoke? Why do you gotta fucking smoke?
I'm trying to quit.
Dude,
Did you take the bun off?
yeah, I took the bun off him because he likes the meat.
He likes
He's got
the
this
meat.
thing about the six-pack he thought he had back in the day.
Okay.
Him and fucking Weeks used to stand outside the garage. Him and a stupid fucking muscle shirt.
You can fucking box. Really? Leave it on the top.
Look at that. I'm gonna blow off.
I don't give a fuck. Leave
Yeah.
the fucking box.
Hey, I took the fucking toy too.
Yeah, I got the gangster a Happy Meal. Took the fucking toy too. So I hope you guys like that clip. I have another interview to show you guys right now. Pretty interesting one. And let's get into it. I got a couple more I'm gonna play for you guys tonight. And every so often I'll do this. I'll go back and we'll play some of my old interviews and we'll just go over them. So all right, let's get down to business. All right, the next interview is Michael McCullum, former Hell's Angel from Chicago. He was the Sergeant of Arms. Let's get down to business. Welcome to another episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got my good friend, Michael McCullum. What's up, man?
What's up, Staxx? What's happening, bro?
I'm good, man. A lot of people have been waiting for this, and we're gonna let some people get in this room real quick, and then we're gonna get into it. So how you been doing, man?
Good, man. Doing it as good as I can be. I had COVID. My girl had COVID. She's still getting over it.
Yeah.
That's about it. Living the dream.
Yeah, was it rough? The COVID, was it rough?
Yeah, it was pretty intense for me for a couple days. My girl, it's been over 3 weeks, still struggling with it.
Wow. Did you once you find out you have COVID, do you get tested like a lot for it, or how does it go?
You should go get tested so you have like an incubation period, I guess, to where you can give it to somebody else. But I went and got tested. She did. We're both clear, but you get the residual effect with the fluid in your lungs.
Yeah.
And headaches and all that. Some people stay sick for months.
So what do you suggest for somebody that has COVID out there to get them pushing through it? What do you suggest?
Punch yourself in the nuts and get out of bed and go to the gym.
You definitely the way, man.
That's about it. Only the
So yeah, man. So you're a living legend in the street. I don't know if people out there know it. I know a lot of people do, and there's a lot of people that don't. But you've been involved with some pretty heavy stuff, and you are one of the only people. You're the only person in the world to have a full patch with the Hell's Angels, a full patch with the Outlaws, and walk away from the life, and be with the Chicago outfit, and walk away from the life without telling on anybody or doing any shit like that. And I'm so thankful I get this chance to talk to you. And around 2004, I heard your name.
Right.
Yep.
Go ahead, bro.
Around 2004, I heard your name in the circle. I was around these people, and they had a lot of respect for you. And I heard your name, and I was like, wow, who's that guy? And I did a little digging, man. And I've been waiting years to try to get in contact with you, and finally a good friend between both of us connected us together, and here we are.
Give me a second. I want to thank Nick Christopher for reaching out to me and told me to asked me to hook up with you. He's a good friend of mine. He was on Mafia Killers on the Reels channel, and he's got a new movie going to be coming out. It's filming called Destins. It's about the Greek mafia, and Nick is Greek, and he's tight with a lot of us Italians. So it is what it is. Great.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man. I interviewed him. Good stuff, man. And so before we start this interview, man, I want to I know your daughter passed away recently, and I want to take a moment of silence for her. That's all right.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah, your daughter name is Danielle Teresa McCullum.
Yeah.
McCullum. She was born February 27th, 1997. She died January 25th, 2017. And I want to take a moment of silence for her and anyone else that's suffering with addiction.
Right.
So you let me read a manuscript, a little bit of a manuscript before we came to do this, and I want to talk about an incident that you had when you were a young man. You were really young, and it changed your life forever. And you want to get into that?
Sure. It was like, actually, it was many years ago. I was young, My father was involved with the Chicago outfit, and he was going to do something with a couple of guys. And one of the guys was a Chicago outfit lieutenant. He backed out of the score, and it was a setup, and the Chicago police were waiting on the rooftops, and they killed my father's two club brothers. And you know, the guy that didn't show up, he obviously didn't get killed, and my father stayed alive because of a CBS News reporter seen him under his brother's dead bodies, and they were riddling the bullets in their dead bodies. So, you know, my dad ended up getting arrested, attempted murder, the shooting at Chicago cops. And it was a special unit called the Red Tag Squad, which they were assassins, man. They were pretty much to follow you around and let you step on your dick, so to speak, and take you out, man. And, you know, no convictions, you know, death by jury, and that's it. And that's the way it went down. So my father went to prison. He told my mother being 100% Italian, she was pissed off, and she called this guy Sammy and said, my dad, you know, her husband, my dad is going to kill this guy. And he had somebody run up our back stairs of our house. You know, I was a young kid, and they threw 2 sticks of dynamite in the window, and I'm deaf in my right ear. And just a bad scene, man. And we could have died, and I never forgot it. And it kind of set me on the path of wanting to kill everybody that was involved and ever doing my family any harm. And everybody ended up getting it. And, you know, we can get to all that later or whatever. It's in my book. But that's kind of what led up and facilitated my hatred for certain people that were involved in organized crime, because me being half Italian, we don't fuck with people's houses. We don't fuck with their jobs. We don't fuck with their wives. We don't, you know, there is a code with bikers. Italians, I mean, back in the day in Chicago, everything was like the Wild West, man. There was bodies in the trunk everywhere. Shop wars were going on. A lot of bad things, you know. Chicago's not 5 families. It's under one umbrella, you know, one boss, you know, and several associates and soldiers. And, and that's it, man. But, you know, I ended up getting burnt up, and my brother, was me and my brother, and my mother saved our lives. She jumped on our bodies, and we slept on the bottom of a bunk bed together, and she jumped on our bodies, and my father jumped behind the couch. And I'll never forget hearing the dynamite, you know, and rolling. It's just something you never, you know, I got PTSD from it, but, you know, I'm not a victim, man. I'm a survivor. You know,
I know, but you were how old when this happened?
I believe 4 or 5, around there. They thought I was a little girl, actually. They called me Michelle in the article because I had long hair. You know, it was, you know, early 70s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, everybody was with the long hair, I guess.
So after all this happened, did you guys stay in Chicago? Like, what was the?
Yeah, my father got out of prison, or out of Cook County lockup, a high bond.
They let him out with a shooting with police?
Yeah, they didn't let him out, but I mean, it cost a lot of money. In the club that my father was involved with, they came up with the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me hold on. Yeah, he got out on bond, and he basically, before he got out on bond, the club my father was in took us to Appleton, Wisconsin, but to hide us out so they can go after these guys and kill them. And they wanted to make sure they were gone, so, you know, we didn't get fucked with. You don't listen. Like I said, man, I don't fuck with families. If I had a problem in the street, I came right to your face. When you seen me, you knew it was a problem, and I didn't hide behind bushes. And, you know, sit in the delicatessen. You know, my name's Pops, and, you know, shoot you behind the ear by your best friend bringing you into the delicatessen. I don't operate that way, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you had a code that you lived by.
Yeah, I mean, criminals, believe it or not, do have a code. You don't fuck
Yeah.
with women, kids, or, you know what I mean? Steal from your brothers or try to fuck their old ladies. You'll end up in a trunk doing that, in a biker roll. You know,
Yeah.
the outfit, you know, I guess whatever goes, goes, man. These guys are all bubblegum mobsters now. There's no real deal in Chicago. They're all doing their own goofy shit. So I don't
Did
know.
did the guys that your dad was involved with, the guys that were killed, or the guys that wanted to kill your dad, were they involved with the outfit too?
The guy that tried to have us blown up was a lieutenant for the Chicago outfit. His name was Sammy Anarino. It's going to be in my book. He was slaughtered in front of his hot dog stand, getting out of his Mercedes during broad daylight.
How long after? How long after this happened?
Not long, not long. They said it was 3 men with ski masks and sawed-off shotguns, and they shot him up. But he was a tough motherfucker. He crawled 150 feet from his Mercedes, where most guys would have been just gave up right there. And he was a bad fucker. He was my uncle. He was like my uncle as a child, and I learned a lot of different things.
What's good, Mustafa?
He was a bad dude. He was a black belt. He used to dress like he was. He would act like he was gay and talk like that and rob drug dealers and fuck people up. But
What was the reason? What was the reason for this?
The reason he blew up my house was because my mother called him and said that my father was going to kill him. So he knew the gig was up. But I mean, it might have been coincidence, chance that he didn't show up to the armed robbery. You know, my father and his crew went and tied up the owner of a salad factory and took $600,000 out of the safe, and they fucked him up and a couple of guys that were there. And when they walked out, there was a barrage of gunfire. My father, he never got hit by one bullet. But he died recently in his Corvette. He rolled it 5 times. So I guess that's how life goes.
Do you think that the guy that blew up your house, do you think that he was involved with having the cops set up your dad with the shootout?
Listen, man, I can't on that one. I can't. I don't want to even speculate on that one, man, because it's speculation. It's not. You know, I mean, it's hearsay. I'm going by facts. What I knew happened, and you know, I honestly, Staxx, I can't answer that, man.
Yeah, no, I get it. So after all this happens, your dad goes back to prison.
Yeah.
Do you remember going up to Statesville and seeing him?
Yes.
What was it like being a kid going up to Statesville? Like, what were you thinking? What was going through your head?
Crazy, man. Just, you know, you pull up, you see the big, huge wall. You know, I mean, everything's bigger than life when you're a young kid, and it was scary. It was a hell of a moment. You know, many years later, I ended up in the same place. So, but the very bottom line is, you know, I didn't grow up and aspire to follow my father's footsteps. You know, we'll get to that. But to answer your question, it's a prison's not a good place. It's a place, obviously, to scare people, to deter them from going there. Most people, if you know, you get involved in stuff, you know, and you go do the time, man. You know what you're in for. You know, do the time, shut your fucking mouth, and when you get out, you'll be rewarded by your people, so to speak, and you don't have to hide behind the government or whoever your agency you're with. I didn't choose to play none of that. My father didn't. I went in there, visited my father with my mother. My brother was a year older than me, and there was killers in there. Richard Speck was in there. These were guys that were John Wayne Gacy. I mean, it was definitely a crazy moment. And my father was respected and revered in there. You know, when I was a kid, I just didn't kind of understand it until he got out and he kind of took me under his wing and was showing me different things in the criminal world, man. And I don't know. It's just not something I feel you would want to show your kids or have that around your family. You know, I never brought that shit around my family. You know.
I hear in the Chicago outfit, they usually don't bring their kids into it. So, like, why would Why would you be directed towards that way by your father? Was he trying to pull you into that life, into the biker world, or?
But not, yeah, well, he was trying to groom me at a young age. But when we got blown up, I was very young, and I didn't understand nothing. Everything at that age, all the way till I hit a certain age, when I realized none of this shit's normal. You know, my father kidnapped his cousin, and it's going to be in my book, and he threw him in the trunk of a '69 Cutlass for 3 days, and it was parked in our driveway. And I go out to take the garbage out in the morning, second or third day, and this guy's screaming and crying, and piss is coming out of the trunk. I'm kind of smiling about it now because this shit you couldn't make up. My father was a demented, dangerous man, and he was feared. But I made my own name. You know, I never rode on his coattail or anything about him. I really never. As I got older, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Man.
It's all right, man. Don't worry about it.
As I got older,
If you guys like this type of content, make sure you guys hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. So I'm going to be dropping these every now and again. I got a lot more stuff to drop, but I have some new interviews I'm going to be dropping very soon. So stay tuned for that. And I've been working on something big. I know I've been dropping quite a bit of things, but I'm not finished. So stay tuned. It's only going to get better. So hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. And remember, don't be a bitch.